right, guys, we are on the Catrike All Road. Let's see how this goes. It's just me and the new Catrike All Road. There's just nothing like being on the road with a trike to evaluate how it feels, how it performs. When Catrike informed us that they were working on a new trike, they said, hey, this is a surprise. This is a trike that people have been asking for a long time. Well, that's gotta be a Catrike Villager with suspension. And now here I am, I'm riding this new trike, the Catrike All Road, which is definitely the fusion of the Catrike Villager and Catrike's flagship full suspension trike, the Dumont. If you've been in the triking scene, you'll likely have heard of the Catrike Road and the Road AR. Catrike's first trikes were all based around the space frame design with the seat built into the frame, non-adjustable, lightweight, stiff, and then Catrike eventually started adding features like that adjustable seat and eventually introduced their first suspension trike, which was the Road AR, and then later the Dumont. The Catrike Villager, though, has remained Catrike's most popular trike for plenty of good reasons. The Catrike Villager sits up higher than most trikes. It's got a little bit of a wider stance, very comfortable, lightweight, and easy to get in and out of. It's not hard to see why it was so popular. The Dumont, while being Catrike's most comfortable trike, it does sit down lower and it's a little bigger. On this trike here, we've got kind of the best of both. The Catrike All Road gives us even a little bit higher seat than the Catrike Villager and has the full suspension of the Dumont. There's no better way of testing out how smooth the suspension is than taking it down some bumpier roads. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm on this bumpy service road and we'll see if we can get some shots of that suspension underneath. There we go, hitting some big bumps there. Yeah, all right. Okay, so now we're gonna hit some even bumpier dirt here. Got some railroad tracks, a little bit of gravel here. So one thing to keep in mind is that Catrike's suspension is really designed for road riding. And you'll find that most of the trikes that are out there, with few exceptions, that have suspension are geared more for road riding. And I'm taking this a little off-road right now, a little bit bumpier trail. So far, very smooth riding. The front suspension here is based on Catrike's Celasto elastomers, and they have different wedges for different weight riders. I'm using the heavy wedge right now. It works with riders up to 275 pounds. And while Catrike's front suspension does not have inches of travel, the travel that it does have does a very good job at minimizing road vibration and absorbing the smaller bumps. So hopefully you can see that here as I'm going through gravel. I'm hitting a bunch of potholes and it's doing a really good job. And I should also note that the All Road does come stock with the Schwalbe Big Apple tires. For as long as the Big Apple tires have been available, we referred to them as the poor man's suspension, because as a balloon tire themselves, they do a really good job at absorbing road vibration and taking some of the impact out of the bumps. So you can probably hear it in my voice here. I'm on a really bumpy road. This is not as smooth as an off-road trike would be, or a trike with bigger tires even, but the suspension is definitely noticeable. All right. So on the rear of the All Road, there's the Rock Shock air shock, and the pressure in that shock can be fully customized for the rider. So if you've been watching any of our videos that we've been doing this year, you'll see a lot of comparison videos where we'll take a couple trikes out and compare them. On this ride, I'm going solo, but you may recognize my favorite hill here. And one thing that I always like to do whenever I have a suspension trike is really push hard. So normally I'm a spin fast guy, but when I'm climbing this hill here, I like to put the gearing a little bit higher than normal so I can mash it a little harder, so I can really feel if that rear suspension is sucking up any of my power or not. I'm glad to say, guys, it does not at all. That's pretty incredible there. So as I'm riding, I don't feel any squat at all. Okay, well, now I'm gonna gear down into a lower gear. I'll talk a little bit more about that rear suspension in a bit. Let me go ahead and talk about the gearing. So one change that Catrike has made here, the move from the SRAM 11-speed cassette and shifter that is on the Catrike Max, and the All Road is coming with the 10-speed 11x42 from Microshift. A big part of that is because SRAM is discontinuing their TT500 bar and shifters. So we'll see where the industry goes. As a big fan of bar and shifters myself, I was glad to hear that Catrike has decided to stick with the bar ends. I just find the bar and shifters to be very intuitive on a derailleur setup. Going from an 11-speed to a 10-speed may sound like a little bit of a downgrade, but personally, I'm okay with that. The gear range is the same, so you've still got a 11 to 42, so your high-end gear and your low-end gear are gonna be the same there. One key advantage is that we're using the 10-speed chain instead of the thinner 11-speed chain. And since it seems very likely that a lot of people are gonna wanna add motors to this trike, having a stronger chain isn't gonna hurt anybody. And then on the front, we have the single crank, which is Catrike's branded 42 tooth. So right now I'm on a slight incline and I'm in my highest gear. My cadence is kind of low, but it feels like a pretty good gear. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna take this downhill. I expect that I'm gonna run out of gears pretty soon since I'm starting out in my highest gear. But what I really want to do here is focus on the handling. All right. Going a pretty good clip right now, and it just feels rock solid. There's really no indication that I have suspension, except that I just don't feel the bumps. I don't feel the bumps in the road. That's good. Yeah, that's real good. I'm gonna take this off road just a little bit more. Getting some pretty good bumps here. Yeah. I'm on the Catrike All Road, and I'm riding off-road, or maybe this is a road. So right now I'm on a really bumpy service road that's full of potholes and rocks. It's handling this very well. And recently we've been riding on this road on some off-road trikes, which, you know, having more suspension is gonna give you a smoother ride. But the one thing about a Catrike is they just go. There's really no hesitation from this suspension at all. in the front or in the rear. When I pedal, the trike just goes. Earlier, I said I was going to talk a little bit more about that rear suspension. And so as I'm using it right now, it's a good time. That rear swing arm that Catrike's using on this trike is a substantially beefier version than what was on the original Road R. Is more reminiscent of what is on the Dumont. I would say that due to the smaller 20-inch rear wheel on this trike, it's probably stronger, really feels rigid back there. I don't feel any flex at all. One of the first things that we noticed when we were building this trike was the dual idler system in the rear. And that's definitely a unique setup, having those two idlers so close together. What you'll notice there, that rear idler exists solely to kick the chain up. And the reason why it's important to kick that chain up is so that the power side of the chain intersects that pivot on the swing arm. That's probably the biggest reason right there why I don't feel any squat on this trike when I'm climbing. The power when I'm pushing on the pedals there does not compress that rear end. It stays. All right. Okay, so I'm gonna kick this up. Right now I'm on flat ground and I'm in my highest gear. I'm moving at a pretty good clip here. So far this gearing is just really smooth. I'm not noticing any hesitation at all in shifting with that sword rear derailleur. This is my first time riding with the Microshift sword derailleur. So far I'm really impressed. The shifting is just spot on. It just feels really solid, and this bar end shifter here just feels really nice. So I'm climbing again. This time as I climb, I'm gonna keep the gearing a little lower. So as I'm climbing up and down here, I'm moving through the gears. That gear range just feels really nice. I expect that a lot of people are gonna wanna add a motor to this trike. So there is the ECAT version, and then we also have 750 watt and 1000 watt versions of the Bafang and Tongsheng systems. So if you want to have something with the throttle, we've got that. Okay guys, well, we're on the main road right now, sharing the road with some traffic. You know, anytime I'm riding with traffic, I want to use my mirror a lot. All the Catrikes do come with a mirror. A second mirror can be added to the other side. And as I'm heading over this overpass right here, start gearing down a little bit. Climbing on this trike is really incredible. I don't think that I've ridden a suspension trike that felt this rigid climbing up a hill. Nearly every trike that has suspension has a little bit of squat. Catrike has done an absolutely amazing job at eliminating that squat. So guys, what's it like to ride the new Catrike All Road? Well, I'll tell you, it's just like riding a Catrike. I know that may sound a little silly. You know, Catrike has a full lineup of different models. When you ride them, one thing that you'll notice right off the bat is how well Catrike has engineered their steering geometry for both low speed and high speed handling. And anytime you add new features to a trike, whether it's an adjustable seat or a folding frame or suspension in this case, you know, you really want to make sure that your trike handles like it should. And Catrike has really done a bang up job. We'll be doing some comparison videos here. You know, we'll take a Catrike Villager out, ride it with the All Road here, and get a really solid comparison, as well as comparing this to some other trikes. So far, I gotta say, I'm really happy with this trike. So guys, is the new All Road the trike for you? If you're looking for a trike like the Villager that pretty much anybody can just sit on and ride, has a higher seat, and it's very intuitive, and you're willing to spend a little bit extra money to get that comfortable suspension, then I don't think it's going to be easy to find a better trike than the All Road here. The All Road is coming in at $4,450, $4,450. The least expensive full suspension road trike that I know of. If you guys have any questions about this trike or any other Catrikes, let us know. And in the meantime, check out our website where we have all the details of the new Catrike All Road. We'll see you guys later.